By far the most common chord progression in jazz is the 2-5-1 progression. You're going to have to be able to play through those three chords if you're going to want to be able to excel in jazz music as a jazz musician. Bebop songs like Confirmation and Giant Steps, standards like All the Things You Are, God Bless the Child, are heavily populated with the 2-5-1 progression. A 2-5-1 progression in the key of C would be D minor 7, G7, and C major 7. Let me play those again. 2, 5, and 1. When I was a young guitar player starting out, I really wanted to get into jazz and I really wanted to be a good jazz guitar player. And I realized very quickly that I needed to be able to play through 2-5-1 progressions if I wanted to be a jazz guitarist. And so what I thought I was going to do was just memorize a million different jazz or 2-5-1 riffs and use those when I'm soloing. But the problem was I realized that I don't have a very good memory. I'm not really good at memorizing things. My grades in school probably should have told me that. So what I decided to do was kind of create a way to get started in a 2-5-1 progression and then kind of expand out from there. And so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you some 9-note phrases. So we're going to do 4 notes over the 2 chord, 4 notes over the 5 chord, and 1 note over the 1 chord. We're going to land on the 1 chord with that 9th note. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to learn this arpeggio in over the D minor 7 chord. And the great thing about all of these riffs and all these arpeggios is that they're completely movable. So when I show you 1, I'm really showing you 12 because we can transpose them to all 12 keys. So here's the D minor 7 arpeggio I want you to get down in this position. We're at the 5th fret and we're basically playing, you can visualize this chord. In fact, if you play this chord, you're already playing 5 of the 8 notes. So here we go. 5th fret on the 5th string is D, and then we have an F, which is the 3rd at the 8th fret, and then we at the 7th fret of the 4th string we have an A, and then at the 5th fret of the 3rd string we have a C. 7th fret of the 3rd string we have a D, the root. There's our F, the 3rd at the 6th fret of the 2nd string. There is the 5th at the 5th fret of the 1st string. And then lastly we have the 7th up here at the 8th fret. So it's 8, backwards, let's play it. 8, 5, 6, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5. And just play this up and down like this and kind of get it under your fingers. Okay, now what I want you to do, we're going to take snippets or chunks of that arpeggio, and if we take 4 note bites out of it, if we play 4 notes in a row, the first 4 notes for example, we can do that 5 different ways ascending and 5 different ways descending. And what that does is that gives you your first 4 notes, kind of kicks you out of the starting gate and then sends you into the 5 chord, which we're going to get to in a minute. Okay, so let's go over these 10 different chunks of the D minor 7 arpeggio, and I'll give you more detail about the harmony or the pitches involved. We have D, F, A, C, 1, 3, 5, 7, and then we have F, A, C, D is the other chunk, the next chunk. And that would be the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and the root. And then the next one would be 7, 5, 7, 6 fretwise, but those notes are A, C, D, F. And then we can start on the C note and play the next 4 notes, C, D, F, A. Alright, and then the last one we have ascending. We have the D, the F, the A, and the C. And any one of these can start our 2-5-1 riff that we're going to build from there. Okay, let's do the 5 chunks descending. Starting on the pinky up here on the 8th fret of the 1st string, we have our C down to the A, F, D, and then we have A on top, F, D, C. And we go to the 3rd. On the 2nd string, we have at the 6th fret, we have the 3rd of the arpeggio, which is the F, the root, which is D, the 7th, which is C, and the 5th, which is A. And then the next one would start on the root and would be 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, and that's D, C, A, F. And then the last one starts on the C at the 5th fret of the 3rd string, A, F, D. Okay, now we have 10 different starting points that we can use over the D minor 7 chord. And we're going to go to the 5 chord next. The D minor 7 chord is the 2 chord. Again, keep in mind, if you need E minor 7, you have the arpeggio F minor 7, C minor 7. This is completely movable, so you're really technically learning 12 different arpeggios. And also, you don't necessarily need to play the arpeggio built on this shape. You could say, for example, use the arpeggio, the D minor arpeggio built on this shape, and that would be a different arpeggio. And that would be one that you might want to go, okay, now let me try learning it here. That way you have an even larger arsenal of starting points. All right, now the fun begins. The 5 chord, even though it's specifically G, B, D, and F, those 4 notes, the G7 chord, you can kind of do anything over that chord. What you're doing is you're using the 5 chord to create a lot of tension, and that tension will be resolved into the 1 chord. So you create music is all about tension and release, tension and resolve. And so a lot of times you might do something like, create like a G7 sharp 5 flat 9 chord. And again, that creates a lot of really, really nice tension that wants to be resolved to that C major 7 chord or the C6 chord or whatever C chord you want to use there, major chord. So the most obvious thing you can do over the G7 is to play a G7 arpeggio. So maybe something like this. I would go D, F, A, C, and then I'd go to B, D, F, G. Something like that. And so that would just be learning the arpeggio of the G7. Now that's what we would call inside. That lick is about as inside as you can get. You're basically outlining the notes in the D minor 7 chord, and you're outlining the notes in the G7 chord. So there's really not any surprises. There's no tension, not too much tension. You do have that B and that F. They want to resolve to that C chord, but it's not very adventuresome, let's say. Okay, so what we can do, and also just so we know, we're just going to start with like I said, the most inside. Let's learn a G mixolydian scale. All right, and so G mixolydian scale, starting on the bottom string. This is one way to play it. Is G, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8. We can keep going. 5, 7, 8. Back down and maybe end up on the D or on the G note. Okay. So that scale is a G mixolydian scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that is also related or relative to the C major scale. So that makes sense that it would be a scale that you could use to get you to the C chord. So for example, if I did something using that scale, instead of a pure G7 arpeggio, I might do something like, again, that's very inside. And what I'm doing is the D, F, A, C, sliding down by a half step. And I really like going from whatever last note I play in the D minor 7 arpeggio, I like going by half step to one of the notes in something over the G7. With G7, again, like I said, all bets are going to be off. You'll see that in a second here. And then I'm just going B, A, G, F, E. So I'm just going descending down the G Mixolydian scale down to the E note, which is the third of the C chord. And again, this is very inside. All right, I'm going to teach you another scale. And this is called a whole tone scale. And as soon as I play this G whole tone scale, you'll immediately go, oh, I've heard that before. And basically, it's just this. We're going to go start out the same as a G major scale, or G Mixolydian scale. G, so 3, 5, 7, and then we're going to go up a fret and do the same thing. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and play the G on the 5th fret of the 4th string. And I'm going to finish off kind of like this. I want the scale to kind of stay in this neighborhood here so we can use it in these examples. Okay, so we have G, A, B, D flat, D sharp, F, G, A, B, D flat, D sharp. And the reason I'm saying D flat and D sharp is because I want you to think of those two notes, which are the only two really that are different than the Mixolydian scale, because we have an F in the Mixolydian scale. So we have G, A, B, D flat, D sharp, and F. But D flat would be like the flat 5 of a G7 chord, or the sharp, or D sharp would be the sharp 5. And that's a G whole tone scale. Okay, check out how I might utilize that. So I'm going to start out the D minor 7 arpeggio the same way I have been. I'm playing my D, F, A, C, and then I might go down to the B, which is in the whole tone scale, up to the D flat. I might go up to the D sharp and F, and then down to this E, which is the third of the C chord. So here I need 4 notes. Here's 4 notes. Here's 4 notes here, and then there's note number 9. Isn't that cool? That's kind of a cool sound, isn't it? And it's actually a pretty easy scale to find in the middle of your phrase. And that was kind of why I kind of created this. I've got those 2 beats, those 4/8 notes of the D minor 7 arpeggio, which I already know, to kind of come up in my head with how am I going to get to the C chord? What am I going to do over the G chord to get the C chord? Okay, here's another scale you can use, a chromatic scale. So a chromatic scale is just every note. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, etc. So, but we can use there's all sorts of, those are all parts of chromatic scales. There's no tonality to a chromatic scale. So for example, I could take that first 4 notes of my D minor 7 arpeggio. That's really nice. I slide down to the B note, chromatically go up to the D, and then maybe go to finish off. So now I'm doing 10 notes, so I'm cheating a little bit. I could go straight to the E, but I like having that extra little beat in there. And so that's one way you could use a chromatic scale. And that would be a great way to kind of navigate over the G7 chord. Again, the G7 chord, anything goes. Okay, now we could do a simple G7 arpeggio, and that would be super inside. A G7 arpeggio would just be G, B, D, F, and starting on any one of those notes, B, D. In this situation, in this example, I started on the B note, D, F, A, C, and then B, which is the third of the G7 chord, B, D, F, and then G, and then maybe resolve to the E or something. But again, that's very, very inside. But you know what's really cool is you can use a bunch of different 7th chords. You can even experiment with ones that I'm not mentioning. But for example, one of the most common substitutions for the 5 chord is what's called a tritone substitution, which means you just go a tritone, which is a flat 5. Okay, you go, here's the G, you go up a tritone and get that 7th chord. And so C sharp 7 works as, or D flat 7 works as a substitute for G7. You don't believe me? Check it out here. Here's the 2-5-1. See that? So that means the notes in that D flat 7 arpeggio will work as a transition to the C chord. So you might do something like this. See, I went D minor 7, then I did a D flat major with a 7th, and then resolve to the C. Or I could go down. That's really nice. So I D minor 7, and then starting on the 7th of the D flat chord, I go there, which is technically C flat, A flat, F, D flat, and resolve to C. Now, what is also cool is that not only is the D flat 7 a substitute, you could also play a B flat 7 and an E7. So, in other words, if I just take that G7 chord and go up 3 frets, and then go up 3 frets, and go up 3 frets, all 4 of those chords, all 4 of those arpeggios will work as a transition from the D minor, the 2 chord, to the C, the 1 chord. Okay, so here's an example. Again, I'm just starting with this same, you could start with any of these. You could start with any of the chunks, the 10 chunks that I showed you of the D minor 7 chord, but I'm just starting on the first one just because it's a good starting place, and I'm trying to get you to understand kind of the horizon, the fact that you have billions of options here. You know, one of my favorite comments that I ever get, I've gotten it several times, is that I don't teach how to play music, I teach how to make music, and that's what I'm really kind of trying to do here. I think it's kind of a natural place for me to teach from. I know this is very deep. We're doing a deep dive here, and I apologize for that. You might be, I'm going to have some graphics here. I'm also going to do more videos. I might do a video where I just play a bunch of these phrases and then have the tab there, so you can do like screenshots and stuff. So, all right. So okay, we're going to do the G7 is very inside. B flat 7 though might be kind of interesting. We have B flat, D, F, and A flat. So check this. And then what was the other one? The E. Oh, I love this one. So that one, E7, maybe visualize this E7 right here. I'm playing D, F, A, C. I'm going down to the B of the E7, the D, which is the 7th of the E7, the E, which is the root of the E7, the G sharp, or the A flat, the G sharp, which is the 3rd of the E7 chord. And then I'm resolving down to G, which is the 5th of the C chord. And it's cool because it kind of creates this G13 flat 9 sound. Isn't that a great chord? Okay, I'll put the notation here so you can play it. But basically, it's a G13th chord with the 9th flatted. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like a little D shape, D sharp, E. There's our E triad right there. So you're kind of, when you do this line, you're kind of implying this chord. The other thing is I could go to the A, which would be nice. I could resolve the last note, the 9th note. Again, these are 9-note phrases for the most part. I could resolve that last note up to the A, which is the 6th of the C chord. All right, I've got a lot more, and I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do probably a follow-up video to this. It's going to take me a while to get this video finished because I'm going to have to do a lot of graphics for it. So hopefully it's somewhat popular. If so, I'll probably do a follow-up video for this and show you some more tricks, ways to navigate through that 5 chord. Because again, all bets are off on that 5 chord. You can pretty much play any note and justify it leading to the C chord. And that's kind of what I was showing you just now. Okay? So anyway, God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. I think 88% of my viewers are not subscribers. And also hit the bell if you want to get a notification when I post new videos or follow-up videos for this one. And also, I do still go live every week, usually on Monday mornings here in Los Angeles. And so you can join us on the live stream for that too. And if you have questions, you can ask me there. I sometimes take time to answer questions. Usually I have a plan when I sit down to do my live stream, but sometimes I don't. So anyway, God bless you. Thank you so much for watching, and have fun playing.